They say no one is an island. We're all connected to someone or something. The southern Gulf Islands of British Columbia are a truly magical place. Vancouver, Canada's third largest city, is only minutes away by float plane, but it feels like it could be 1,000,000 miles away. These islands have something that the human spirit craves. Can you hear it? Tranquility. We're instinctively drawn to nature. We need places where we can relax and recharge our batteries. Mainlanders say the islands are cut off, hard to get to, isolated from the real world. Islanders say they're surrounded by a large moat, protected from the real world. I guess it all depends on how you look at it. There's no doubt that island life is different. Everything runs at a slower pace. People leave the sense of urgency behind. Locals refer to it as island time. People stop to talk to you, smell the ocean, and listen to nature. These islands have remained sparsely populated because they're small and off the beaten track. There's really nothing here, except, of course, paradise. For a long time, the summer season was the busy season. In the fall and winter, the summer cabins would be closed up and the islands would slip into a kind of a winter hibernation. Only a few retired folks and die-hard social rebels would stick it out over those colder, rainy, not-so-nice months. People from all walks of life still come here to escape the routine of the big city for weekends and holidays. The big difference now is most of the islands are pretty busy year-round. Busy is, of course, a relative term. Rush hour here only lasts for a couple of minutes after the ferry gets in. The islands today are an eclectic mix of artists, writers, musicians, and just plain folks. People come here to escape the chaos of the urban jungle. individuals looking for a place where they can live in harmony with themselves and nature. Many people come here to reinvent themselves, getting their inspiration from the soul of the islands. The beach is the focal point. On any of the islands, you're never too far from the water. The rhythm of the ocean can carry you away. You're on an island and there's no place to rush off to. That's island time. So sit back and relax as we take you on a journey of discovery and introduce you to the many moods of these shores and Gulf Islands serendipity. The shores around the southern Gulf Islands are full of life. There are no large population centers or industry, so the shorelines are still relatively unpolluted. They're great places for beachcombing, bird watching, and kicking back. Two of the main ingredients that create this vibrant ecosystem are clean water and rocky shores. The rocks act like anchors that many seashore creatures cling to, many of them feeding on phytoplankton as it drifts by. The rocky shores also create interesting tide pools, our windows into the mysteries of the undersea world. Serious beachcombers know that as the tide goes in and out, different areas of the beach are exposed. The area between land and the edge of the water is called the intertidal region, and it's made up of 5 different zones. During the lowest tides, you can see that as you get closer to the water, there are different types of life in each zone.
Down on the intertidal zone, the people are dancing out to the edge of now and here, laughing and dancing. I really don't live here, but these are my friends and I'm happy to be here again.
The best time for exploring the beach is at the lowest tides. If you can read a tide table, you can pick the best time for beachcombing. Tides change from day to day and from beach to beach. Check times and heights in local papers. Basically, all you need to know is that the smaller the number, the lower the tide. Tides are measured in feet. An extreme low tide is one that's less than 2 feet. You'll get those during the day in late June and early July. That's where you'll find those sea creatures that are rarely exposed. In the summer months, when the temperatures rise, you may smell something nasty at low tide. Don't worry, that's not pollution. That's seaweed decomposing. It generates hydrogen sulfide as it rots, a gas that smells like sewage or bad eggs. The good thing is, it creates nutrients to help all sea life to grow better. It's like seashore compost. Most people know these lovely creatures as starfish. They're actually called sea stars, and they're not fish at all. They're an animal, and they eat barnacles, mussels, limpets, and sea anemones. Sea stars can't be out of the water for very long. They live in the middle to low intertidal zone. They look like they don't get around much. In fact, they have hundreds of little tube feet that are hydraulically driven. They won't win a foot race with a crab, but they are mobile. This isn't some genetic freak of nature or missing link. Most of the common sea stars in this area have 5 arms. This purple sea star is in the process of growing a new appendage. If a predator, like a seagull or river otter, grabs them, they can actually sever or detach their own arm as a defense. As long as they have part of this central disc area, minimum 1/5, and one arm, they can regrow or regenerate all of their missing body parts. The purple sea star is one of the most common sea stars. They can live up to 20 years. This is one of nature's great examples of improvisation. It's the hermit crab, and he carries his home around with him. His home really is his castle. The hermit crab has a soft hind end. In order to protect it, he slips on spiral shells and lodges his back feet holding the shell tight. At the first sign of danger, the hermit crab retreats completely into his shell, using his front pincers to block the opening. As the hermit crab grows, he must find a bigger shell for his new home. These little guys are always on the lookout for roomier accommodations. The hermit crab housing market is very competitive, and these diminutive would-be tenants will do battle for a better shell. You'll find hermit crabs in tide pools in the high to middle intertidal zones, munching on algae. You'll find a myriad of creatures in these tidal pools. Many of them feed on the algae that grows on the rocky surfaces. This little creature looks like something you'd find in the garden. For centuries, scientists thought it was a plant. It's a sea anemone, and it's one of the more exotic creatures you can discover on these shores. A relative of the jellyfish, you'll find these guys in the middle to low intertidal zone. When they're covered with water, they extend tentacles that can excrete poisonous toxins for stinging their prey, like tiny fish. Don't worry about your children. These pink-tipped anemones aren't harmful to humans. When they are exposed at low tide, they retract their tentacles and their gelatinous body, and they look like green blobs. The seashore has many moods. Some people come to the islands just to experience the winter storms that blow up and turn the strait into a tempest. On a sunny day, the fog can roll in, especially in the fall months, and these shores are transformed into something different again. Much of the Gulf Island shoreline is made up of sandstone. The action of the waves sculpts this soft material, creating interesting shapes. These are arbutus trees. You'll find these trees from Northern California to our shores. Their interesting shape and color have inspired artists, photographers, and visitors since the Spanish explorer Galiano first sailed these waters in 1790. Another bonus to these clean beaches is the abundance of bird life on the shorelines, especially at low tide. Bald eagles are one of the main attractions. They nest all over the Gulf Islands. Eagles mate for life, and they'll come back year after year in the spring and use the same nest. This nest is about 67 meters or 200 feet above the ground and close to the ocean. The eaglet is about 21 days old here, and its feathers are not yet developed. The parents stay close by, rarely leaving the youngster alone. The eaglet grows quickly, as you can see in this series of shots. About 75 days after being born, the young bird is almost as big as his parents and is ready for its first flying lesson. It's serious business. That first step is a doozy. You can spot the juveniles because they don't have the distinctive white head or tail. If you're here in early May, look for young eagles in the nest. By early July, they're as big as their parents and ready to fly. This pair of youngsters, or juveniles, doesn't want to leave home. The parents have stopped feeding them, and when they get hungry enough, they'll take that first step. Eagles have been known to dismantle the nest to get juveniles in the air. Once they get used to their wings, the parents will train them to hunt and gather food for themselves. If you go down to these beaches at low tide, there's a good chance you'll see herons. They hunt for small fish in tide pools and shallows. Like any good fisherman, they know that patience is the key. This sleek black bird is the Brant cormorant. They're the deep sea divers of the bird world. Cormorants have been caught in nets by fishermen as deep as 30 meters or 100 feet. They go after small fish and eels. Of course, beachcombers know that with a little effort, they can bring home a seafood dinner. There are a few things you need to consider before you start fishing or picking oysters. The first thing you need to do is get a license. In BC, you need a license if you are going to harvest any kind of food at the beach or on the water. Make sure and check to see if there are any closures in the area. In the late spring and summertime, red tide is a common problem. As the water in the strait warms up, certain species of algae bloom, producing toxins. This can get into shellfish, and some of the toxins can cause paralysis, even death. The best bet is to check locally before you eat anything. In BC, you can call the people at Fisheries and Oceans, and they'll tell you where it's safe to dig for clams or pick oysters. Oysters are getting tougher to find as more people come to the islands. But if you're lucky, you may find a beach with these Epicurean delights. When you're visiting the Gulf Islands, take the time to stop and look around. Smell the ocean. Listen to nature. If you hang around long enough, you might even slip into island time.
Down on the intertidal zone, the people are dancing out to the edge of now and here, laughing and dancing. I really don't live here, but these are my friends and I'm happy to be here again. I don't mind starlight and jet black nights when the reggae comes wailing, or float dark floodlights, black on white, moonlight tailing. I really don't live here, but these are my friends and I'm happy to be here again. Tell me, where do we go when the inn shuts down? Well, over yonder to that boardwalk shack that pumps that sound. I think I'll wander. I really don't live here, but these are my friends and I'm happy to be here again. I really can't stay here. I'm sorry to say, but I'm happy to be